Deixa-me dar um saltinho à Scotland Yard. Ok, não há nada para fazer aqui. Vamos a Kew Gardens. Bem, não temos nada para fazer aqui. Vamos então a Baker Street, que é para buscar o Toby. Para rastrear aquele cheiro dos químicos. Ué, olha, este já está aqui também a fazer estas.
This green, grand, mystic fellow seems rather suspicious, Holmes. What should we do next, Holmes?
Tu achas que estás é todo coisa com o ópio que tu tomaste.
Come on, Toby. We have some work for you to do. Let us go to Kew Gardens.
Vamos lá. Então, já estou a
Let
ver.
us take Toby to the laboratory. He will pick up the scent of this mysterious substance. Search, Toby. Search.
Então. Está ali. Ok. Sai aqui fora. O qual já abre as portas e tudo. Por aqui. Por aqui. Caraca, andaram com aquilo aqui às voltas. Hidden place.
Congratulations, Toby. Now let us see what you have found. This
Bottle.
is the bottle that was used in the laboratory. It was buried here.
Tem lá qualquer coisa dentro. Chemical
There is
solution.
still some liquid remaining in the bottle, with gold,
Gold
flakes.
flakes.
A tiny caterpillar.
Pois.
Not surprising to see one in a garden, but at the bottom of a bottle.
Agora temos que fazer então a análise.
Let us determine just what we have found here.
Hmm.
Let us pour liquid from the bottle into a test tube to perform an analysis.
E aqui, não é? Non-liquid. Test to take. A non-liquid examine.
A colorless, water-based liquid.
Inhale.
Quite a strong floral aroma.
Vai provar!
Holmes? What are you doing?
It has a bitter taste.
What if it's poisonous?
Did you ever see poison stored in enormous jars like that? Anyway, there is a doctor nearby.
So what do you think it is?
It is some kind of organic compound. Let us vaporize the liquid and see what happens.
Vamos usar aqui o gas burner que é para evaporar. Ficou ali uma cena.
Small colorless crystals.
Que estáis?
Colorless, tiny crystals that are soluble in water, with a floral smell and a bitter taste. Watson, could you pass me that small bottle, please?
Of course. Here you are. Holmes, do you know what it is?
Wagner's reagent. There was a label on the bottle that you passed to me.
No, Holmes, I meant the bottle that we found.
Let me add the reagent and see if there is any sediment, and then I shall tell you.
Reagente. Test to...
I need to take a pipette and make several drops of the reagent. I need to take a pipette
okay,
and make several...
Tá bem. Reagente. E usar aqui, drop reagent. Ficou vermelho.
Red sediment, just as I suspected. This liquid is of organic origin. It contains some alkaloid. Most likely it is unstable, and that is why there is a quantity of gold dust to prevent contamination. This mixture is probably a fertilizer. Someone was carrying out unusual experiments in the garden's laboratory.
E também temos aqui no B. Suspicious ingredient. Será que é isto? Pois, poisoning. Set up the experiment. Set up the alkaloid from a chemical laboratory and the caterpillars and perform the experiment with the deadly plants.
According to the deadly plants information, in order to perform our experiment, we will need fertilizer and food. Caterpillars should do nicely.
Evidence required. Falta uma evidência. Deixa-me só ir aqui. Tínhamos aquela sala Agora estou um bocadinho perdido. São tantos sítios e tanta coisa que... Exame. Ah, alcaloide está aqui.
This substance is an alkaloid, the same as in the bottle we found in the bushes at Kew Gardens. Perfect, Watson. We can begin
Ok.
our
Era
experiment.
mesmo isto que faltava. Alcaloide.
One of these plants would be capable of releasing a toxic vapor. I need to find out exactly how it could be done. I shall begin now.
Yeah.
Watson, if you are at all optimistic to have dinner this evening, then I'd recommend that you put on the gas mask.
Então. Pin. Take. Stab with pin. Caralho.
It appears to have fallen inactive after being disturbed.
Ah. E esta? Carolina Inebriare.
My word! It shot a spike at me after I stabbed it with a pin. I imagined that its reaction would be ferocious if I increased the strength of my attack.
Caraças. E esta aqui? Florem Diabólica.
No reaction.
No reaction. Pura.
This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid.
Ok. Esta. Esta também fecha-se.
This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid.
E esta. Esta abre-se.
It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid.
E as caterpillars. Esta vai ter que fazer alguma coisa, né? Ainda não fez nada.
I
Caralho.
find the behavior of predators utterly fascinating.
E aqui? Caraca!
How interesting.
Ai!
What a strong and effective defensive mechanism.
Meu Deus! Ou seja, pusemos ali, aquela foi lá comer e esta, como foi atacada, também lançou aquelas coisas todas. E agora esta. Vai aquela comer lá. Yeah. E
It
lançou.
closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas.
Yeah.
I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more. I am interested in what might occur if the prickly plant should shoot at it.
Então vamos trocar de position. Esta com esta. Assim. E se pusermos isto... Isto não. Como é que fazemos? Com isto? Mas provavelmente não vai dar...
This
Não.
plant seems to have had no reaction from the caterpillars.
Pois. E esta também não. Ou tem? Tem, que ela vai atacar e aquela vai lançar as cenas para todo lado. É. Ou não?
After being drenched
Esse
with
cara tem
alkaloid.
que abrir. É isso? Primeiro? Deve ser isso. Deixa ver. Deixá-la aberta.
It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid.
E agora ponho isto aqui. E agora se calhar é que lança aquelas cenas. É isso.
Toxic gas with spores. Extraordinary.
Já está.
The plants would be capable of killing only if they were directly next to the victim
Pois.
and stimulated at precisely the right moment.
Let us take our caterpillars to the Colonial Collection Room. We may see things more clearly there.
It is too early, Watson. Our suspects will be there. Let us investigate Kew Gardens one more time and ask some questions.
Vamos investigar outra vez. Deadly precision. It was a complex process to prepare the deadly plants. Aqui com a Miss White Studies. White's lack of experience. The knowledge Miss White acquired at the university might not be enough to guarantee the correct reaction of the deadly plants. Or White's knowledge. Miss White had the biologic knowledge to stimulate the deadly plants. Não sei. Mas já ponho esta. E aqui. Albert's ambition com deadly precision. Albert's lack of experience. Aqui sim. Albert is not very good at botany. It is doubtful that he could have learned how the plants might release their deadly spores. Pois. Ou Albert studies. Albert had the biological knowledge to simulate... Não. É mais isto. E com o missing deadly plants? Yeah. Sect's scheme. The Divine Syndicate led the plans at Kew Gardens in order to murder Montague Dunne at a later date. Or sect is not involved. Someone stole the deadly plans before the Divine Syndicate were able to. Eu acho que é isto. E será que foi a White? Será que foi a Miss White mesmo? Eu estava a dizer, eu acho que não foi os Divine Syndicate porque ele disse que faltava, quando foi lá buscar as plantas, ou roubar, faltavam 3 já. Já faltavam 3, que eram estas 3. Ou seja, nós já descobrimos quais foram as plantas usadas para matar o homem. Então vamos aqui perguntar. Before Dunne's death.
Can you tell me if you saw Mr. Montague Dunne on the day of his death?
Yes, of course. I met him, and we went to see Albert, his son, at around 9:30. He appeared quite calm.
Your activity at the morning.
What were you doing on the morning of the accident?
After paying multiple visits to Albert, I had a little talk with Miss White. Then I returned to my desk to complete some paperwork. Suddenly I observed that Mr. Dunne was not feeling well, so I ran immediately to fetch Albert. I clearly remember that it was around 10:30, for I was late that morning.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation.
E ele, do coisa dele, da secretária dele, consegue ver realmente o collection room. Vamos ver o que é que este diz.
Your father's death does seem highly suspicious. What were your movements here on that day?
Suspicious? Well, I was working in the seed house, taking care of Lysa something, or Lear Pontus, or... Wait. Oh, these Latin names. And I spent so many hours trying to memorize them.
Did you see your father that day?
Yes. He came here with Mr. Hamish for his weekly visit. There was nothing unusual about that.
And then?
Nothing. They stepped out to the backyard. It was perhaps 20 minutes before 10 o'clock. Then about 10 minutes later, I saw my father heading for the dry tropics room while Mr. Hamish returned here.
And Mr. Hamish and Miss White, what were they both doing that morning?
Mr. Hamish visited me a couple of times. I also saw him returning from talking with Miss White, and that was at 10 minutes past 10. But then he ran back here to me to tell me that my father was feeling unwell. We hurried across to the water lily room, and I found my father lying dead on the floor. Oh, my God.
Thank you, young man. We shall see you again soon.
Ok, e agora? Falta falar com a Miss White. É que isto agora eles começam aqui a meter horas e não sei o quê, e foi às não sei quanto da manhã, às 9h40, às 9 e não sei o quê, às 10, 10h10. Vamos ver o que esta nos diz.
Can you tell me what Mr. Dunne was doing upon the day of his death?
I can, but there is nothing very special to say. I was in the laboratory when I saw Mr. Dunne heading towards me. Tuesday is the day of his weekly visit. It was supposed to be at 9, but he was 10 minutes late, as usual.
And then?
Well, he came in to say good morning. Then I saw him spend 2 or 3 minutes by the plants outside the laboratory. After that, he ran out in the direction of the nursery, where Mr. Hamish was working. He was always in a rush during the inspection, you see. I would pity anyone who stood in his way.
The time of death.
And that was the last time you saw him?
Yes. I stayed in the laboratory until 20 minutes to 11, when I heard the cries of Albert and Mr. Hamish from the large glass house. I joined them as soon as I could. for I knew that something must be very wrong.
What exactly were you doing in the laboratory?
I was recording an experiment for my thesis. I only stopped my work once when Mr. Hamish visited me briefly around 10 o'clock.
Your records.
But you say you were recording an experiment when the tragedy occurred. Might I listen to the roll?
Certainly. Please do. You will find it in the laboratory. It is number 320.
Number 220.
Thank you, miss.
Sometime later.
Everyone has gone, Holmes. The way is clear.
Ah, agora quero ir lá ouvir. Isto é um labirinto autêntico. Portas e mais portas e mais portas. 320. Ah, mano, está aqui. Ah, está aqui.
Here it is.
E agora vamos ouvir.
These plants, classified as shrubs or grasses, have adapted to their arid environment due to a system of underground roots.
This recording seems very long. It is unnecessary to listen to all of it. Miss White was in the laboratory, as she told us.
Pronto. Estava mesmo no laboratório. Então vou fazer aqui esta reconstituição do crime. Então como é que eu... F. Então as plantas estariam aqui. Inhaling the spores. Exatamente. Foi o primeiro passo. Sim. Que depois derruba aquela estátua. Ok. Depois... ele... escaping the room. E depois... depois pronto, é isso. Sabemos que ele depois cai lá naquele sítio. Ele vem por aqui a cambalear. Chega aqui. Arromba a porta. E pronto, morre ali.
When Montague Dunne was standing close by the plants, the caterpillars were released and caused the deadly spores to activate. Panicking, and likely already half asphyxiated, Montague Dunne started back and knocked over the bust.
Exatamente.
He rushed to the door, but it was locked. He had to force it open with his shoulder.
Exatamente.
We already know the outcome. Montague Dunne collapsed and died not far from the pool. Well, it is time to perform our experiment on the ventilation system.
Pois, agora que eu me lembro, pois tem aqui esta ventilação. Place caterpillars.
The caterpillars could only fall from the ventilation duct.
Pois.
Our caterpillars are in place. I'll activate the ventilation system so that they fall down. Watson, stay here and observe.
All right, Holmes.